Good morning and welcome, Patriot Radio News Hour. I'm Joe Jaquint, CEO of the Patriot Trading Group, and our toll-free number 800-951-0592. Our website, allamericangold.com. And welcome. It's Thursday. It's the day after the Fed meeting, and as expected, I love it when I nail it. Because, we don't know. It's not like Jay Powell calls me up, right? I don't get a phone call from Janet Yellen. I don't get a phone call from any of these executives on Wall Street. Jamie Dimon doesn't have my cell phone number. But we are talking about, hey, it's either going to be a hard pause or a soft hike. And then yesterday I said, it's going to be the pause. And that's exactly what we got. It's so funny because it's idiotic. Really. Oh, it was a hard pause. No, it wasn't. You know what it was? I'll be really honest with you. It was, we're a bunch of cowards because we know we're trapped, but we're going to talk real tough. Well, Posse, listen, if inflation's still roaring and unemployment's still below 4%, you hike. But they didn't. But they acted like they were tough. Oh, yeah. Well, we raised a lot, Jay Powell said. We raised a lot. Well, actually, Jay, you missed raising for an entire year, right? We're actually on 3 years running now of inflation and talked about how, yes, the headline numbers come down, but the core number is still too hot. Well, in that case, you'd raise rates, Jason, but they didn't. But they acted like, hey, we're going to do more later. And, of course, the dot chart, yes, they all put their little dots on a chart. The majority of them, and we'll break this down in the next segment, said 2 rate hikes. 2 more rate hikes is nirvana. Now, some said no more rate hikes. Some said 1 rate hike. Some said 2. A couple of them said we need 4 more rate hikes. So, again, right, just enough to say, well, they covered all the bases. I don't think they missed one, Jason. They had 0, 1, 2. They had a 3. They had a couple 4s. I mean, come on.
It's interesting, Joe, because if they know they have to raise the rates more, then why don't they just do it now?
Do it.
Isn't that
Of course, that is the answer. But they want to see more data. Well, how does that help us? How does that help? We want more time. Well, that's what got us here. Them taking so much time has got us here. And, of course, it's so funny because they talk out both sides of the rest. We know how important it is to not let inflation get rooted in. Well, then raise. If it's so important. I guess it wasn't that important 2.5, 3 years ago, was it? Oh, no, it wasn't important at all. It was transitory. And, of course, they're still trying to use that, right? They're still trying, because in his little speech, he thought, well, early on, it was supply chain problem. They're still trying to use that nonsense. And believe me, folks, it had nothing to do with supply chain problems. Nothing. It had to do with the fact that they keep printing money, Jason. That's what it has to do with. And basically what he said yesterday was, well, hey, we're going to keep printing it, but we're going to take a pause, and we're going to collect more data. Well, today, we got more data today. We had retail sales today. Retail sales, probably not what Jay Powell wanted to see. Retail sales were up. But, of course, so was inflation. So it's kind of hard. Of course, it should always, right? When inflation's running, even your ridiculous 4% number, which is ridiculous, right? Even that number. Well, retail sales weren't up 4%. And they were up a lot less than that. Not even close to 4%. But still up again. And then we had jobless claims. Boy, and this has been a number. This number's been a head scratcher, hasn't it? Earlier this year, if you remember, this was probably going early March. They came out and said, oh, you know what? We screwed up. We had the wrong seasonal adjustments. So all the numbers for the first 9 weeks of the year, they were too low, and they raised them all. Then, what was it, maybe 6 weeks ago, claims got into the 260s, and I was like, uh-oh, that's not good. But then, oh, wait, we had fraud in Massachusetts, and all of those numbers were wrong, and they got pushed down back into the 240s. Then a week ago, we went back into the 260s, and I said, well, I don't know. Is it a real number? I don't know. This week, 262,000 people filed for unemployment claims for the very first time, the second straight week now in the 260s, of course, until they changed the data, and then continuing claims inched up, but we're not at 2 million. We're below the 2 million, so a little bit of both. They had some news that says keep raising rates with retail sales, and then news with jobless claims that said, maybe you better be careful here, but a little bit, very similar to what we've been seeing for the last 6 weeks, Jason, which is one data point says raise, the other one says don't raise. Not a lot of change, but we'll watch jobs because I think that is going to be the only way that inflation comes down is people got to get fired. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back right after the break. (800-951-0592) Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason on this Thursday. A quick look in at the markets. The Dow is up 300 now, 300 points right now. The S&P is higher. The NASDAQ is higher. The 10-year note lower today. I don't mean to laugh. It's just kind of funny. The ECB did raise interest rates. Gold. Man, what a 24 hours. But to keep it pretty simple, gold's right where it was before Jay Powell talked. Right now, depending on where you look, like Kitco's got gold up like $10, $12. The TV's got it down $3. Either way, gold, I'm going to say 1953. I know the TV's going to tell you it's 1960 something. Don't worry about that. That's just contracts. They're already showing the August contracts on the TV. Silver's been on a roller coaster ride as well this morning. By the way, we're going to have a great utility silver special here in a little bit, but silver right now down 40 cents, 23.70. Also way off the lows today, way off the highs today. Silver's been a very volatile trade so far this morning. If you're tired of the volatility, if you're tired of this absolute nonsense that comes out of the Federal Reserve every 6 weeks, this dog and pony show, hey, we're going to talk about doing stuff, but we're actually not going to. Check out our friends at YRefi. I mean, you can get up to 10.25% return. That's a whole lot better than 4%. Up to 10.25% returns, and it's fixed. You can turn your income on. You can turn your income off. You can compound it. You can do whatever you want. There's no fees, right? No fees. And if you have to end early, you get your entire principal back. Invest. YRefi.com. That's the word invest, the letter Y, REFY.com, or call them at 888-YRefi24. Remember, you got to have at least $50,000. You can use an existing IRA if you like. 888-YRefi24. But Jason, like I said, the data mixed jobless claims a little bit concerning now if these are real. The second straight week in the 260,000 plus area. Retail sales, yes, they were higher, but inflation was higher. right? And they, retail sales grew, but they not keeping pace with inflation, which just means the consumer's money not going as far, and everybody's kind of wondering when's the next shoe gonna drop. But they did this dot plot thing, and it was just so funny when I looked at it, because now here's the one thing I want everyone to know, and I gotta move my mic here because I gotta pull it up. I had it up and then I got rid of it here. So only 9 people get to vote. Okay, now there's 18 people in total that get to go to the meeting, if you will. 18 people that go to the meeting. There's the 12 regional central banks. There's the chair, the vice chair, and a couple of other people that sit on the board. And what they do is they have this little graph, and they just project out where they think rates are going to be in the future. Now, the future being that could be this month, next month, 6 months, a year from now, 2 years from now. And here's what changed. So going into the meeting, you had the majority of the Federal Reserve people thinking that they were close to done. You had one person who said done. I'm assuming the same person put done again. Okay, so one of the 18 said we're done here. Then the next one said one more hike. Before the meeting, there was 10 of them that said one more hike in their little dots. Okay, their little dots. That went down to 5. So you had now a total of 6 members of the 18 saying done or one more hike, where it used to be 11. Then 2 hikes. Going into the meeting, 5. 5 of the 18 said 2 hikes. That is now 10. 10 of the people have 2 hikes. Then you have 2 that have 3 hikes. You had 1, 4 hikes. But again, and now here's what made me upset. The vote was 9-0 to pause. Now, I don't know who the 6 are. There was only one that said we're done. So how can it be 9-0 to take a pause? So even though, let's just say one more hike. Okay, well, one more. Maybe you want to pause now and say, hey, we're only going to do one more. Well, that would only be 6, and that's if they were all voted. I don't even know if all 6 of them had votes. So everybody else says at least 2 hikes or more, yet somehow they unanimously agreed to pause. This is the idiocracy. The reason why they want to pause is, hey, I know we're supposed to raise rates, but maybe we'll get lucky and the data will start getting worse and then we won't have to. I mean, that's really what they're saying, Jason. They're playing with us. It's our money that's getting eaten up week after week, month after month. And these guys, well, we kind of screwed up. So therefore, we're going to take a break, even though we're saying we shouldn't take a break.
I always kind of in the boat where I think they know what they're doing, Joe. There's always they don't know what they're doing, and they're just. But I think they know what they do, and if they know what they're doing, there's a very large part of me, the conspiratorial part, which is, well, they know that a rate hike or 2 more rate hikes, that's what's going to send this thing over the edge, and they don't want to do it yet. To me, this is a timing move, because that's the only thing. Because if they need to raise the rates today, this week would have been another move towards that. Why stop? And to me, it's about timing. I think they want to time this out. There's some sort of time frame. So we'll raise the rates in November or in October or something, right? And then maybe they know, Joe, that we talked about that last week, where well, is one more really going to make that much of a difference? He said, well, it could be pretty destructive. 2 more could be pretty destructive from where we're sitting now. Maybe they know that. Maybe that's the whole point. It's like, well, we need to be destructive when we're ready to be destructive. And then, so we got to pause right now. It's not this much
right now. I think you're probably spot on. I guess I'm just poking fun at the narrative, right? All these guys on TV and the strategy and trying to give cover. Listen, we've had roaring inflation for 3 years now. When are you going to make it stop? Right? And the answer was, and Jason's right, well, not yet. Because we're not ready yet. Right? That's really, I think you really did hit it on the head. Hey, not yet. Because we know how destructive they're going to be. And maybe we'll get lucky and somehow we won't have to. We'll see. Like today. Right? Today, they got one data point that said, hey, good job. Probably shouldn't hike 262,000. The other data point, retail sales, right? Probably should have hiked. I told you I'd keep you posted on my friends. Remember, I got 3 friends. They all got laid off. All within like 2 weeks of each other. 2 of them are one started working this week. One starts next week. So 2 out of the 3 have found work again. And it's been, 6 weeks? 6 to 8 weeks or so. So they're getting work. It's just not. There used to be you had a job 2 weeks later, right? And that's only because we got to interview you a couple of times, and the jobs these guys are doing, they got to go take a P test and that stuff. But Jason, it's still, I would say this. I know jobless claims are up, but things are still not bad, really. Definitely good enough that they should have hiked this time.
I think jobs musical chairs is still going on, Joe, where these companies have learned how to scrape the higher paying jobs out and replace it with somebody that's either less qualified or just the qualifications aren't that necessary. Hey, we can get someone of lower qualifications and pay them less, and we can move these other guys out. And then, Joe, also, I think with the Fed rate hikes, I really think the Fed wants the inflation. I think that they're attempting to inflate their way out of some of the debt problems that America has. So I don't think that's going to be very successful. But it is one play they may be trying to say, hey, if we let this thing inflate at a rate that we can control, maybe we'll inflate our way out of some of this debt problems we have. And that's why I think inflation's here, and I think we're going to have some huge spikes in inflation in the future.
Yeah. Well, just to point some stuff out, New York. Now, granted, I know it's New York. But as you know, what happens in these liberal states spreads everywhere. They've decided that the food delivery people, and I'll call this the DoorDash economy, right? A lot of people do this. They've got a new minimum wage for food app delivery drivers. It was $7.09 because that's a job you get tips, right? With tips. State of New York has said, nah, how about $17.96? I don't know. I don't know how they come up with these numbers, but Jason, let's call it $18 an hour. We know what this means, right? So what do you think's going to happen when you go to order your Chipotle burrito in New York and have it delivered? The answer is simple, Jason. They're just going to tack on, an extra $2, $3, $4 for every burrito? I mean, this is the problem with inflation. When it gets rooted in, all of a sudden the government says, we've got to do something, and they start setting these ridiculous wage levels, which, Jason, ultimately mean what? A lot more inflation's going to occur.
Yeah, and I really think you look at inflation cycles from the past, and I was looking at one from the 40s after World War II and one from the 70s, and they almost always have this. It's coming down, everyone feels better, and then it just bounces. And I don't really think that with this amount of debt and this amount of economic problems that we have versus those two time frames that we would see anything different. And I see a kind of a bullwhip where we could have a couple of spikes over the years, Joe. We could have this inflation problem could happen for the rest of this decade if they don't fix it, or they don't have the toughness to just really clobber it and make everybody feel the pain at the same time.
Listen, dock workers, it looks like that contract. So we haven't talked about it here, but they were striking, just calling out sick, just causing havoc at the ports again. I just saw a headline. Looks like they're going to get a big bump in pay. UPS, their drivers were going to strike. I know this. Not only are they going to make more money, UPS has agreed to finally put air conditioning in the UPS trucks. Now, I get it. Hey, I live in Arizona. I have more respect for those UPS guys. I know why most of them are always, man, those UPS, they're in good shape. Well, now you know why. They're out there sweating their nuts off because they got no AC. I mean, think about what it's going to cost to put air conditioning in every single UPS truck. I mean, get ready. Send in a package. Just got a lot more expensive. But don't worry, Jay Powell, because I know you don't want inflation to get rooted in. We'll be back after the break.